cook with music, but kind of awkward not having music and cooking at the same time. But I'm just gonna get used to it.
You'll get in your mode.
Yeah, that's why I told Google to turn off the music, or I'll listen to it and cook at the same time.
Okay, we've got others.
Whenever you're ready for me to kick off, just give me a flag.
Yeah, I think that we're good. I think everyone's pretty much muted. We've got a couple other folks still coming in. So if people come in, I'll just admit them. But I went ahead and clicked record. Welcome to Feminism On Demand. And thanks, Adrian, for being willing to do this tonight. I know as a person coming from a mostly gluten-free household, it's super nice to be able for you to walk us through this and be able to cook something delicious, because I know a lot of my gluten-free recipes have been major fails. So it's definitely helpful and exciting for me, and hopefully for everyone else as well. So I went ahead and muted folks who weren't muted, but so tonight we'll do a cook along with Adrian, who's the owner and chef at Uptowne Cafe and Bakery here in town. We're recording for later so that folks can also do it at a later date and be able to cook along with you virtually when you're not live. But thanks again for being here. So we will, everyone on here is pretty much muted as we cook though, as we go through this, because it's a little bit of a process. If folks have questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask Adrian questions and she'll do her best to field them. This is definitely her area of expertise and not mine. So from here on out, unless I have a question, I'm going to go ahead and be quiet as well. So Adrian, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to do this. This is my first Zoom asked to do a cooking course, but many more came after. So there will probably be some more courses, or wanting me to do my own courses at home. I've done a couple live on Facebook for people to watch, just breads and things that I mess with, especially sourdough is one of the most popular things that you see right now on social media. So you've gone to the store and can't find flour. Gluten-free flour is, nobody's really going for that. So that's an easier find than looking for different types of flour. The recipe I was asked to create or have a gluten-free recipe. Which was so interesting is that I used to own a traditional and gluten-free bakery in Austin. So not a lot of people know that. So here I don't do too much gluten-free, just due to a lot of people with allergies having contamination issues. And it takes a lot to train people on how to handle gluten-free materials versus, especially when you have a dual environment that's dealing with flour. One of the first things when I started cooking with gluten-free, there was no all-purpose gluten-free flour out there. So people were experimenting across the board between rice flour, sweet potato flour, you name any other type of flour other than a wheat gluten flour. People were attempting to make their own, and just over time and popularity, it got to be something that was you starting to find like Bob Red Mills, and other people are now developing all-purpose gluten-free flour. For me, I ended up making my own gluten-free flour that assists on recipes, and in fact it does change because texture changes between a cake and a muffin. So there's different ways to adapt if you're going to make your own gluten-free flour. Right now that's more of a pain in the butt, so a lot of people can see that there are so many other choices on gluten-free flour out there. The one that I recommended to you was I believe Bob Red Mills. I look for, especially when you look on the back of the ingredients, that you want to look for certain things in gluten-free flour. One is a blend of different types of flour. I prefer making sure there's a blend of brown rice and white rice flour in there. Also in gluten-free, you need a starch. That's that thickener that, when you pour water onto flour, it gets thicker. That starching aspect that you need to look for. So, look for something that has a potato starch or tapioca starch, but making sure there's one of those. And also what you have to add into most of your gluten-free is also that binder. So if it's agar-agar or xanthan gum, there is that kind of chewiness that you need that is in regular flour that you're trying to copy when you make a gluten-free flour. Most recipes the flour that you buy does not usually contain that binder aspect, so that xanthan gum or agar-agar. You will have to buy that separately, and it's quite expensive. It does go stale. So, if you can find it in a smaller pack, that is probably the best thing to do. And make sure that you seal that pack as you're using it. It's the same type of gum that you kind of see in chewing gum too. So it's that chewing factor. So today we're going to make a lemon raspberry cake. This cake to me is probably the closest that I can get towards a quote unquote a pound cake when it comes to gluten-free. And a lot of people that eat it don't even know that it is gluten-free. So it is tended to be a little bit on the heavier side when you go close to a pound cake, but it's probably one of my favorite cakes to make that is the gluten-free. So to start out with your ingredients, you need that all-purpose flour, which I have right here. I've already measured mine out. You're gonna need that 2 2/3 and 1/2. Which is so funny when you look at gluten-free ingredients, or when you look at a recipe, they have some kind of odd sizes. Every once in a while, you'll get that 2 2/3, and you need a 1/2 cup. What a lot of people don't know, or regular households, you have your regular measuring cups, but there are odd measuring cups too that you can buy. So I'm gonna pull one, and like I have one that is like a 1.5 cup. So you don't ever have to just have your 1 cup and your 1/2 cup. There are measuring sides of 1.5 cups and 2/3 cups. And part of me is just lazy, so it makes it a little easier that I don't have to scoop 2 times for a third. I have a 2/3 cup that I'm able to just slap it in there and have that done. So I have my all-purpose flour. I have my baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder. I have my salt, which I have a little container which contains my salt, and then I have that xanthan gum that you have. Bob Red Mills has a really good pack of xanthan gum, and it's a nice seal. So those are the first set of ingredients that we have to work with first. So like mostly main cake ingredients, they'll tell you to add all your dry ingredients together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and with my all-purpose flour, I'm gonna add that 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And let's just say I made this cake a couple times this week because I was getting funneled with a lot of questions. And one of the number one questions that I was definitely getting was, and I think Rebecca, I think you're making the cake and you're making it with gluten, correct? Are you making it with gluten? Have you measured out your flour yet?
I have not. I was just going to ask.
Yes. So people that are making this, they're making it with gluten. Even my sister called me and asked me, can I make this with gluten? How will it turn out? And I was like, you know what? I've never made it with gluten. So let me make this with gluten and see what it comes out to be. And so I followed the recipe, and all I did was like changed out the all-purpose flour for regular flour, and you X the xanthan gum. You don't need the xanthan gum as part of this recipe. But what I did is I cut back on the flour because it already contains everything that you need into it, the starches and everything. So I only did 2 2/3. I felt like if I added a 1/2 cup more, that it would be too thick and too heavy of more like a bread loaf, like a thick loaf. So I cut back and just did 2 2/3. So if you're planning on making this with gluten or with all-purpose flour, regular all-purpose flour, I would say just do it 2 2/3 and ex-nay the 1/2 cup. And also, you will not need the xanthan gum. So,
hey, thank you.
You are so welcome. So on this again, you'll have to add your baking powder. Then you're going to add your salt, which is a teaspoon of salt. And then the xanthan gum. Do not get overzealous with the xanthan gum. The xanthan gum will, once the water hits this, it will get thick. So you want to follow the recipe and put that half a teaspoon. It doesn't seem like it's a lot. Trust me, it is a lot. So I have all those dry ingredients together. And so I'm gonna set them to the side. And you know, I get kind of lazy where I'm not wanting to follow the ingredients where it says put all the dry ingredients in one bowl, and then you just want to do everything in one bowl versus having two bowls, have your dry ingredients in one and your wet ingredients in the other. I do recommend mixing this thoroughly, all the dry ingredients thoroughly, so you don't want the xanthan blum to blop together in your mix or in your mixer. So the other part is putting all those wet ingredients together. And I'm gonna be using my KitchenAid. You can do this by hand, but I'm at home, I'll use the KitchenAid. It'll be a lot easier. So I do have all my sugar, which is 2.5 cups of sugar, and I'm gonna pour that in my bowl. So another question that I got filled privately is, how do I zest a lemon? The zesting of a lemon is is quite unique. Some people, like my husband's like, they're gonna ask you questions like, how do you zest lemon, and what do you know, what do you use to zest a lemon? I use a microplane, but I don't expect everybody to have a microplane in their house. If you use the micro side of your cheese grater, the nice little old-fashioned ones, or the grater with the smaller ribs in it, it'll be a lot easier. So I already did about 1.5 lemons earlier, and I'm just adding the rest of my lemon to this. So zesting the rest of my lemon, pulling all that zest off, and then I'm going to pour it into my mixer with my sugar. And I'm going to turn it on for a quick moment to get that lemon mixing around with that sugar. On things like adding lemon juice, I prefer to have fresh lemons when I do this. I gotta honestly tell you, I am a lemon head. I love a lot of lemon. I do not eat chocolate. It's not my preferred sweet. I do prefer citrus, and especially I do love lemon. And so I know here is this 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, but sometimes I get a little overzealous with the zesty and a little overzealous with the lemon juice. And I add a little bit more because that's what I prefer. And you can use a squeezer. I just squeeze by hand, but I'm gonna put the rest of my lemon juice in there, which is like 2 teaspoons. I did a little bit like 3 teaspoons because I like lemon juice.
Okay, Adrian?
I'm gonna spin that around a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
You use, the blade that you're using, or the attachment that you're using for the mixer?
Yes, ma'am.
That's like the whipping cream one?
Yes, I'm using a whisk. So I'm using the regular whisk. I can pull that out. So I'm using a regular whisk around for this one. That's just to kind of, I'm just gonna mix that sugar and that lemon zest in there. And so my next thing is that I am going to get my cream cheese and eggs. And you know what? Let me pull my cream cheese so you can see what I got.
You may have already answered this, Adrian, but how much lemon zest is too much lemon zest?
So 2, I used about 2 lemons, but I also, like I said, I like a lot of lemon. So that's really gonna be your choice on how much lemon that you want. Some people ask me, can I use blueberries? Can I change the flavor up? Like, can I change my fruit up? Can I change the flavor of the cake up? And I'm like, yeah, it's your cake. I'm not gonna eat it. So you can change it to, if you wanted to put almond extract, or you just want it to be vanilla. You can decide what you want the flavor of it's going to be, as long as you're changing it to a 1-to-1 factor. So if you don't like lemon and you just want to make a vanilla cake, you can do that. If you want to add coconut flavor, you can do that. That'll be dependent on your choice. So I am going to get my cream cheese. I'm gonna get my cream cheese out. And I'm at home, so I'm gonna use my fingers. But as I'll turn on my machine, I will just pull pieces of my cream cheese and just toss it in there. And I am on, by mixing is on 2 right now. So I'm just mixing this cream cheese in there. And I like to just pull it apart and just watch it. Some people, you can cut it in tubes, and you can cut it in little squares and cubes and put it in there if you like to. Mine is not as soft as I would like it to be, so I'm just gonna break it up a little bit. So
Hey,
that's gonna go. Now I'm gonna wash my hands. Do I have a question?
yeah, hey, can you run through what's all in the mixer right now? Just
Yeah.
as a summary.
So right now what's in the mixer is my lemon zest. It's my sugar, my lemon zest, and my cream cheese and lemon juice. And I have a question on the chat. So let me see if I can answer that real quick. Should our lemon juice already be into? Yes. So your lemon juice should be in there. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit faster to get it a little creamier. And I'll pull the bowl off so you can kind of see what we're working with. If you didn't hear me, I'm gonna pull the bowl off so you can kind of see what we're working with real quick. And it's a little thick. So it's a little thick by all means. That's that cream cheese, lemon juice, the sugar. It does not have the eggs in there yet. So I'm going to put my attachment back on. Lock it in place. And I put it back on 2. And so here I have, our next thing will be the eggs. So I have 8 eggs. And I'm just gonna pour in and try to just do 1 at a time. Just to kind of get them in there and get it blended. Or at least get the yolks kind of cracked before I decide to turn it up a little bit. And I'm gonna turn that up. This is also a good time as while you're making this if you need to melt your butter. So this recipe does call for melted butter. I was asked if you can change it to an oil or vegetable oil, and I said, sure, it's your cake. You can do what you want. It's your house. I'm not gonna eat it, but I do prefer to use regular butter, and I'm gonna grab mine out of my place. All right. So we have our eggs in now. So everything that we have in the mixer is the sugar, the lemon juice, the lemon zest, the eggs, and now we're gonna add the cream cheese, forgot about that. And then now we're gonna add the butter. So you wanna make sure your melted butter is not steaming hot because we're not trying to cook your eggs. We just need that butter melted. So I'll pull it off again so you can see. It's very high yellow due to your eggs and your lemon. It almost looks like a batter itself, but we are missing the main ingredient, which is the flour. And I'm going to turn this on again, just to give it a little stir. And I'm going to add vanilla to mine. I'm going to add vanilla to mine. Sometimes I like to add a little lemon extract too. And I'm going to add vanilla. All right, now with your all-purpose flour, your gluten all-purpose flour, making sure that all those ingredients that you added, the salt, the baking powder, everything that's in there is mixed thoroughly. We're just gonna add a little bit at a time. So we don't want any clumping. We're just gonna do a little mixing. Because you know, these mixers, if you add too much, it'll go everywhere. I've had it done before. It'll be in my hair, be all over my face. So just adding a little bit at a time really helps distributing it and making sure that it doesn't get lumpy, because remember we have that xanthan gum in there. And if it's not mixed thoroughly, you will start seeing it starting to lump up. So I probably break it up in probably about thirds. And we're just going to mix it. All right. Then I'll have this one more time. Do this mixing. So right now you're gonna have your batter. So you're gonna have that lemon or that vanilla, whatever that taste or finite taste you want to add. If you're doing blueberries or raspberry, blackberry, mixed berries. And we'll talk about the fruit in a second. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. I have mine on about 6. So on 6. So spread it around. To get it all wrapped up and make it look like a regular batter in a dough. So here we now have our batter. This recipe does make a lot. It makes about 2 loaf pans, pretty large loaf pans. I have about pretty decent size loaf pan, about 2 of these. You can make a bun pan. I was testing around all types of things for the last couple days to see what pan would work. Another question that I received is on the raspberries. Can I use frozen raspberries or can I use fresh raspberries? I prefer using frozen raspberries because they hold in place, but fresh raspberries I've been using this week. And as you know, and as you probably have seen, if you cook something, sometimes they sink and they get to the bottom of your pan versus floating in the batter. So we can do something to fix that. I'm gonna put mine. I put mine in the freezer just to make them a little cold. How cool is that? Another question I received on the raspberries is, do they need to be whole raspberries? Can they be crushed raspberries? They can be whatever raspberry you prefer. I have whole. Mine are semi-cold. If your raspberries are not cold, I do recommend you taking a little bit of your all-purpose flour and rolling them in the all-purpose flour and then putting them into your batter. That will help them suspend in place and get connected to the material or the batter that's around it. So mine are a little frozen, so I will not be doing that. And when you put your raspberries in, you don't want to crush them, you want to kind of fold them in. Sometimes if you feel like it, if you don't want to add them and you're afraid you're adding them too soon, you can pour your batter, put a little bit of fruit in, or more batter, put more fruit in. It just depends on how you want to disperse them. Now that our batter is completely ready, we have our pans. So I practiced with my bun pans, practiced with my loaf pans, and I found out the loaf pans are a little bit more forgiving than you would do with the bun pan because there's an opportunity that it may stick in parts of your pans. I pulled out the fancy pans to see if those would work, and the bun was breaking off. Someone have a question? Well, I do recommend using some loaf pans. Even doing little mini loaves are really cute if you're going to want to send one to your friend because you haven't seen them in a long time, so I'm in quarantine, and you just want to drop one off at their house. You little butt pans are really cute. To do, you will have to spray your pan so it will not stick. I recommend spraying and putting a little flour, especially if your pans are not seasoned. If you have seasoned pans, my pans are pretty seasoned, it'll slip out pretty easily. But if you do not, I do recommend putting a little flour in your pan. Like I said, this is a lot of batter, and you can play around and make all different types of shapes. And if you are like me, you have that oven on 350 degrees already, preheated and ready to go. You just want to equally separate your dough. And if my kid is coming, I'll probably steal the whisk that I have in the sink and eat it. I always do this trick because my grandma did this trick when I was little to get all the bubbles out. She used to slam it down on the counter to level out, but also get those cakes. So this will go in the oven. These are pretty thick. I would say 45 to 55 minutes, depending on what type of oven you have. Like I said, I tested it several times on different types of pans, and they all vary because of the thickness. So if you're going to use a little pan like this, I do expect it to be 45 to 55 minutes in a 350-degree oven. All right, I don't have a loaf pan. Well, I'll be fine. And yeah, you'll definitely be fine in a 9x13. Your shape is just depending on which one you decide to do. If it is like a 9x13, I would go ahead and definitely check on it between 25 and 30 minutes because it's not as thick as this tall in height. So you're going to look for that golden brown, but also look for that jiggle. So that if you bring it out and it still looks like liquid moving around when you're like pulling out, it's not done. You might want to also do the old-fashioned grandma, take a butter knife or take a little knife and poke it and see if it comes out clean, because sometimes that golden brown can be mischievous and confused, and you won't be able to tell. When do you tap the pans on the counter, and when do you don't tap the pans on the counter? Okay, so that's a really good question. So when I don't, the reason I did this is to try to make sure to get the bubbles out. If you are doing a cake like a chiffon or you're doing an angel food cake, you probably do not want to tap because you're looking to grab some of those bubbles and leave it in there. So I definitely, on those types of cakes, I would not tap. As soon as you put your batter in, my grandma has always taught me to tap to see if there's any air bubbles that will come to light, and they'll come up. And I did pretty good because I don't have any. I don't think that's a question for me. So, yeah, if you have a seasoned pan that you like to use, like, or you want to use a cake pan or not, like I said, the time variance will differ because of the thickness of how tall it is. Cake pans are not as tall as your loaf pans, and so they will cook a little bit faster. So I definitely would check on those between 25 and 30 minutes. But also, like I said, it will give you probably a nice little break. You can probably poke it and try to see if it's still liquid, if it's still batter, versus if it's still a cake. In the oven we go. All right, so that is in my oven for the time being. But since we don't have that magical moment of passing of time, ooh, I've already made one. Check it out. So I already have one made. So, I mean, it's mischievous. You can't even tell it's gluten-free, like the cake, you know. My kids don't know. They'll know until they're like they have to like question me, is it gluten free? But now that I have the cake made, I've let this cake cool, and it's going to be your choice because of the icing. You're choosing to decide what you're going to want to do with your icing. If you want icing or not on top of your cake, that's your choice. I prefer icing. I told you I'm a lemon head and I want some lemon on my icing. So with your icing, the recipe that I gave is 1 cup of powdered sugar, which I have there, and a whole lot of lemon, because I like lemon. So I'm going to squeeze my lemon by hand. And sometimes there's a little lemon seed in there. And that's okay. That just tells me that I know you made that cake, that you made that lemon icing with real lemon and not lemon juice from that little green bottle. But I will mix this up. So in the recipe I gave you, I believe it calls for me to put a little bit of milk in there. And that milk that it tells you that's in there is to help give it a thickness and that it stays white. So it gives it more of a white icing versus a clear icing. If you prefer your icing with no milk, you can. You don't have to add milk to your icing. But I add a little milk so to give it a little bit of whiteness to it. And don't be afraid if your icing is a little thin, you can always bring it back by adding a tablespoon of powdered sugar and mixing it to your heart's desire. So I have a pretty nice looking ribbon icing. So here's the conundrum that people always say, do you add the icing hot or do you, when your cake is hot, or do you add it when it's cold? I do both. I like to add a little bit when it's hot, especially down the line of the crack, because it gets into the cake, because it melts into the cake. So that's that soft part in the cake sometimes that you see when you have icing, like a glazed icing on a cake. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see you dancing, Rebecca. That is like the best part. So I usually like to add a glazed icing while the cake is hot because it melts and it gets into all the holes. Sometimes, I mean, my grandmother would poke holes with a toothpick all over the cake and to help get that icing inside that cake. But these icings are really simple to make. Again, it doesn't have to be lemon. You can do vanilla. You can do no flavor if you prefer. You can add it to butterscotch, whatever you prefer for you want your flavor to be on top of your cake. And then I just drizzle it on my cake. I like a lot of icing. You don't have to have a lot of icing if you don't want some icing. You can keep it really simple. And then on the preferred areas, how you want your cake. So I don't put too much raspberries in my cake, but I like to have it is really, like I said, like a thick pound cake. Let's see, my kids are gonna be coming in a minute for some cake. But it's rest assured it is a very good cake and very much like a pound cake. Another question that I do get is, will it taste like a regular cake? Well, it's not flour. It's not going to be regular like wheat flour. So you're not going to have that taste of flour. Will it have some graininess at the end? I always know that it's gluten-free when it has a little bit of a graininess at the end of the taste. It's usually because of the rice flour. You can play around with flours. You don't necessarily have to use all-purpose flours at the store. For me, it was me playing around with flours to find out what would be the perfect all-purpose flour mix for certain ingredients. Again, like I said, I don't use the same gluten-free flour that I use for a cake that I would use for a muffin, or what I use for a cookie. So then on a cookie, it really just depends on the type of cookie. So that will help me decide what type of flour. Is just the type of texture that I am looking for in a cake. Y'all have any questions? Concerns? I see a lot of people baking. But when it comes to making regular cakes and cookies and such, I like to play around with a lot of the ingredients and even the measurements to play with the chewiness and the fluffiness of the cake. So like people that decided to make a gluten-filled cake, like I said, I made the recipe to a T, and I realized it is way too much flour. It's way too thick to cut back on flour. And the only way I would have really known that is by either making it, or I already knew when looking at the recipe that was going to be a really thick cake. So definitely cutting it back would make it a very light cake, and it may cook a little bit quicker. Okay, looks amazing. Can't wait to try it. Thanks so much sharing with all of us. So no problem, Lisa. I think this is fun, especially when you're diving into new ingredients between if you have an allergy or not, or you're doing dietary. Doing cakes with no sugar, no flour, or no milk can be complicated, but you can also find wonderful ways to get around that, especially since now it is a huge fad to be able to make ingredients or make cakes and things like that that are allergen free. Yeah, like I said, I think it is. I really do think it is about the flours. Like again, if you didn't catch me from the beginning, I make my own flour, and instead of me telling you to bring all these thousands of ingredients to come together to make an all-purpose flour, I looked at different all-purpose flours that are out there that are gluten-free, that I would find similarities that were similar to mine, and Bob Red Mills was a perfect one to use because of just the texture, but also the blend of flours. And I mean, even when you're deciding to make your own gluten-filled cakes, think about adjusting the flours. You don't necessarily need to do just all-purpose flour. Let's see. Well, thank you for attending. Again, I use raspberries. You don't have to use raspberries, use blueberries. As you make this cake and it comes out great, tag me in the photo. If you have a question, you want some adjustments on making this cake, let me know. I definitely am interested in hearing how people liked it, and if you feel like you would change something, because I believe, once we give you these recipes, they're yours, so you can change them any which way that'll fit your need. Again, asking me if this will work, and I'm just going to tell you, hey, it's your cake, you're going to eat it. So, and I'm not going to get a chance to probably unless you drop it by and you want me to try this cake. But I think for having this type of cake, you can probably fool a lot of people that this is gluten free. They probably won't know. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're, Lauren. Yeah, definitely do share your photos and have fun with this. It's a great cake to make with your kids. My kids have been baking and cooking with me for however long we've been quarantined, and if you've seen my photos, they've been in everything. So these are the greatest memories to have, and these are memories like I remember having with my mom and my grandmother's cooking and storytelling, and especially about where these cakes came from and why are we cooking them, and how much fun it will be to teach you, and then you'll take it on to the next generation. So most definitely cook with your family, and you'll be well, and probably 10 pounds heavier after everything is said and done. Once we can hit these streets again, I'm looking for myself to be at least 10 or 15 more pounds heavier. Yeah. All right. I don't know if there's anything else, Lauren, if anybody has any more questions or concerns. Oh, Becca, I see your cake going in the oven. It looks good.
I'm cracking up watching Rebecca try to keep up because I feel like she's like a cooking show, but she's like trying to beat the timer.
Yeah, I see her going at it.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Lauren, how'd it go for you?
I mean, they're in the oven.
Did you try the batter?
My daughter did, who's been here baking with me. She ate quite a bit off the spoon, so she says it's.
So that's a good start, and she's liking that better.
Yeah, I had to tell her a minute ago that that's enough. Go put it away. We can eat the cake when it's done. So.
Yeah, and I like it hot out the oven. It's probably one of my favorite ones hot out the oven that comes out. And I mean, like I said, I'll glaze right away, and then I'll wait until it cools, and then I'll glaze it again. So, and like I said, I'm a big lemon head, so that's why I really like the citrus taste of this, and it really is pungent, and it does come out. I see Kate Pop is on here. Hey, I can't wait for you to try the cake too. One more time, please. Oven temperature and time to bake, Lisa. Let's see if you're using like the loaf pans, I would say it's between 45 to 55 minutes. The higher the pan, the more time you're going to need for that. And I cook it at 350 degrees. And the ones that I cook up will be up for about 45 to 55 minutes. But do go in and check. I always go back and check my cakes around 30 minutes. And I check to see if they're golden. I have a skipper around here. If it's golden brown or even if it's done. So I have new ovens, so those are things that are temperamental that I definitely check on. I'm not used to them, so definitely if you don't cook a lot or if you don't bake a lot, check on your cakes. I say about 30 minutes. Cook it. See if it comes out clean. Your cake maybe done early. If you cook it and you have batter that comes out of it, then give your cakes more time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adrian. This is so good. I just said in there, oh my gosh, this is so fun. She's right. This is by far my favorite Feminism on Tap yet.
Well,
Thank you.
You get to eat a lot of cake. I'm used to cake now.
No, I'm so excited to try it. So yeah, thanks for doing this. I know we're not gonna stay on for another 45 minutes until everyone's done, but I really appreciate you doing it, and I'm super excited to feed my little family unit all of the cake. So I appreciate it, and thanks for being here and for walking us through it and teaching us normal bakers how it's done by a pro.
Oh, this is how I do it at home. So, sometimes it's a mess where I'm around, and when it's just experimenting, and as long as you're having fun and smile on the face and you're getting a good product, you can keep trying or keep making more cakes. Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining, everyone. Let us know how it turns out if you're making tonight or a different night. Share your photos with us on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll tag Adrian in those too so she can see how well she did at teaching us. We do this every week. We have a Feminism on Demand every week. So if you want to come back next week, we've got Natalie Kostman coming on to talk to us about gardening and composting, and we'll continue to have folks on to teach us new skills during this pandemic quarantine time, and to bring us all together. And I'm just really thankful that y'all came, and thankful to Adrian for teaching us. And oh my gosh, that baby's so cute.
Well, thank you all so much. Yeah, it's time for her to go to bed, but she's gonna say bye. So say bye, sweet.
Bye. Thanks for joining, everyone.
No problem. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.